Hi, and welcome to our audiobook series brought to you by Burgapoly Publishing. Let the journey begin. Today we are presenting
Chapter 20, New Friends. Then after nearly half an hour, "There, up ahead!" The man's voice carried a certainty that had been absent before. They all leaned toward the windows. The camp appeared through the breaks in the canopy. A high-walled compound, old but fortified. Wire mesh stretched over the top, keeping something out or keeping something in. Buildings, wooden, worn, stained by time. A gate slid open and the shuttle descended, slipping inside the walls like a captured bird. The engines whined as they powered down. The doors creaked open. The man unbuckled his harness, stepping into the humid air. John followed, his boots hitting the ground solidly. The pilot stood beside him now in full view. Khaki clothes stained with sweat. Hair matted beneath his cap, discolored from years under the sun. John noted he wasn't tall, just a little taller than himself. The man's name came without him having to say it. "Hey, Ray," a new voice called. They turned. A large man, broad and thick with muscle, dressed in camouflage, approached. His gait was calculated and cautious, but there was no immediate hostility. "Wasn't sure if you were going to make it out alive or not." His gaze drifted to John and the others, then to the shuttle. A smirk twitched at the edge of his lips. "What's with the kids? And what's with the college shuttle?" He folded his arms, tilting his head. "Are we getting into a new line of work?" Ray turned, his expression unreadable. "Those things shot me down, so I borrowed the shuttle from the school." His tone was casual, almost too casual. He gestured vaguely toward John and the others. "These kids were about to get blasted by the Clemillians, so I picked them up." He let the words settle before adding, with a pointed smirk, "Oh, and I'm fine, by the way." The larger man barely reacted. He wiped the sweat from his forehead with a grimy rag, his focus elsewhere. "Did you get to see any of them?" Ray shrugged. "Nah, they were all tucked away in their attack vehicles, blasting everything that moved. Didn't exactly feel like sticking around to shake hands." The man sighed, disappointed. "I was hoping to see if they're as big and ugly as people say." Ray gave him a look. "You might still get your chance." His voice was matter-of-fact, heavy with implication. Then he turned on his heel. "Come on, kids. Let's get some food." They followed. The compound was more significant than the one they had escaped, but the same air of worn necessity hung over it. People moved through the camp, their faces taut, their eyes never still. Survivors, all of them. John kept his stride even, but his mind was already mapping the place. "So, your name is Ray?" Ray gave him a sideways glance. "Yep, that's what they call me." He stopped at a steel door, pushed it open, and gestured them inside. A wide mess hall stretched before them. Long tables, stacked chairs, the scent of reheated food lingering in the air. Tom glanced around. "Looks like a dining area." A gruff laugh broke the air. A scruffy, broad-shouldered man halfway through a meal let out a low chuckle. "Dining area? This here's the mess hall, boy." Ray smirked, tilting his head toward him. "That's Frank, our chef." Frank snorted. "Yeah, I'm the chef, all right." Then mid-bite, he coughed, spraying food into his hand, a moment of awkward realization. Then, without hesitation, he wiped his hand on his pant leg. John grimaced. Ray clapped Frank on the back. "Don't worry, nobody's died from his cooking. Yet." Frank grinned through a mouthful of food. "You got anything left back there for me and these kids?" Ray asked. Frank took a slow sip of his coffee, cradling it between his hands like it was the only thing keeping him sane. "Made pancakes earlier. Still some left," he grunted. "The guys didn't have much of an appetite today. Guess they're all yours." Ray nodded, already moving toward the kitchen. "Then let's see what's back there." He pushed through an opening leading into a stainless steel-lined kitchen, the smell of day-old batter and burned coffee clinging to the walls. "This place used to be a research station back in the day." Ray gestured to the equipment. "So we've got all the modern conveniences." His tone was casual, but something lingered beneath it, something unspoken. For now they let it be, because survival came first. Tom eyed the stack of pancakes like a man who had just seen salvation. "These look pretty good." Chi shot him a sideways glance. "Of course, you'd think so." Ray pulled open a cabinet, retrieving plates with the ease of familiarity. Looks like there's enough for all of us. He gestured with his chin. Forks should be in that drawer over there. Tom glanced around. Where's the syrup? Frank stepped into the kitchen, holding up a half-empty jug. Right here. His eyes flicked over the group, assessing them with the weary indifference of someone who had seen too much. Then, a question, sharp, unfiltered. What's with this crew? New recruits for a job we're running? Ray didn't look up from the plates. Nah, I pulled them out of the school before the Chlamylians turned it into a war zone. Frank let out a low grunt, setting the syrup down on the counter. Yeah, I heard people talking about it while they were eating. A pause, and then his voice dipped a little quieter. Did they kill a lot of people? Ray stabbed his fork into a pancake, chewing for a second before answering. Some. Didn't stay long enough to count. Frank let out a breath, crossing his arms over his broad chest. His stomach pushed slightly against his oversized, grease-stained white shirt. His gaze turned inward, calculating. So, are we making a run for it? Getting out before they find this place? Ray set his fork down just slightly harder than necessary. I'm going to check in with Aris, see what he suggests. Frank nodded, turning back toward the sink. He started rinsing dishes, the sound of water filling the silence. He was in first thing this morning, like always. Ray nodded. Good. As soon as I finish, I'll go talk to him. Then without hesitation, he shoveled another bite of pancakes into his mouth. Tom watched him for a second, then leaned in slightly. Who's Aris? Is he the boss? Ray barely paused his chewing. Sort of. He stuffed another forkful into his mouth, swallowed quickly, and then washed it down with a large gulp of his drink. Wiping his mouth with his sleeve, he stepped away from the counter. I'll be back. Eat your pancakes. Frank turned slightly, glancing over his shoulder as he scrubbed a plate. You can eat in the mess hall. He jerked his chin toward the doorway. There's some fruit out there if those bottom feeders haven't already cleaned it out. He waved a soapy hand in dismissal. Let me know if you need anything. John nodded. Thanks. The group gathered their plates and headed out to the mess hall. The world outside was still burning. But for now, they ate. Tom took a satisfied breath, leaning back in his chair. These pancakes are pretty good. John chuckled, shaking his head. Not surprised to hear you say that, buddy. He gestured toward Tom's empty plate. Anything's good when you're hungry enough. Scott sat down across from them, his gaze calculated, measuring. These people seemed different from the last group we ran into. John exhaled, running a hand over the table's surface, feeling the grain of old wood beneath his fingers. I guess we'll find out soon enough. He glanced at Scott. We didn't exactly get off to a great start. Across the room, Valerie and she stood near a bowl filled with jungle fruit, their colors bright against the dim lighting. Valerie picked up a deep violet-colored one, inspecting it. The fruit looks pretty good. Tom pushed his chair back, standing. I think I'll get some. The conversation eased into something lighter. For a moment, it felt almost normal. Then Frank's voice cut through the space. Hey, if you're done with your dishes, bring them here. I gotta clean up and get ready for dinner. John jumped up, grabbing his plate. Sorry about that. The others followed suit, carrying their dishes toward the kitchen. Frank let out a booming laugh, his belly shaking. I'm just messing with you, he smirked. Nobody around here ever does that. The laughter that followed was nervous, a little forced. They returned to their seats, the room settling into an uneasy quiet. Then Valerie spoke, breaking the silence. This changes everything. Her fingers tapped against the table, restless. I don't like this planet. Nothing good has happened to us since we got here. Tom stood again, this time pacing, his frustration leaking through. Yeah, I know. Chi's voice was softer, more measured. Maybe if they have a ship, we can escape back to Zemia. John considered it, turning the thought over in his mind. Even if they can't take us that far, maybe they could drop us somewhere we could find a ride. Then, a loud bang. The group jumped. The metallic clang of a pan hitting the floor echoed from the kitchen. Muffled curses followed. Then, another bang. John smirked, turning to Tom. Maybe you should check on him. Tom snorted. I think I'll pass. She sighed, shaking her head. I will. She slid her chair back, stood, and stepped toward the door. She peered inside, voice gentle but steady. Are you all right, Mr. Frank? Frank turned his head slightly, shaking it as he wiped his hands on his apron. Yeah. Just dropped a couple of slippery pans is all. His voice was gruff, unbothered. I'll be fine, thanks. The door swung open again, and Ray stepped inside. His eyes flicked across the room, noticing Chi and Tom standing instead of sitting. His expression tightened, cautious. Everything okay? John leaned back, arms folded. Chi was just checking on the chef. Ray narrowed his eyes, then shrugged. Okay. Then Valerie spoke. Frank said something about a ship. The words hung in the air, sharp as a blade. Can you get us off this planet? Everyone's attention locked onto Ray. He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he pulled out a chair, resting a boot on it, leaning his elbow on his knee. A pause, and then finally he spoke. I talked with Eris about you. John's fingers tightened against the table. Ray exhaled, shaking his head. You know, whether to take you with us or leave you behind. Frank grunted, stepping forward and rubbing his double chin. What did he say? Ray's lips curled into something close to a smirk. You know how he is. Another pause. He said we should have patience. Said the Clemillians would be like a spider, waiting for its prey. Since they have an entire fleet, they'll be watching for any ships trying to leave the planet. Frank nodded slowly. Makes sense. Valerie's arms crossed over her chest. How long does he think it'll take before it's safe? Ray shrugged. He wasn't sure. He figures they'll take Jalopolis fast, but he seemed interested that you're from the school. Said we'd take you along if you wanted. A breath followed by hesitation. But we have another problem. Valerie's voice hardened. What could be worse than a barbaric lizard civilization taking over the planet? Ray chuckled dryly, stepping off the chair. We need parts to fix the ship before it can go anywhere. Right now, it's not going to do more than take a spin around the block. John tilted his head slightly, skeptical. What do you mean we have to get some parts? Ray's smirk returned. He pointed a finger between them, back and forth. You know, us. All of us. His voice was casual, but there was an edge to it, a finality. If you're coming with us, you're going to have to earn your keep, same as everyone else. Tom's eyes narrowed. Where are these parts? Ray didn't answer, because he didn't have to. Valerie exhaled sharply, shaking her head. I bet I can guess. She glanced at Ray, her expression cold, knowing. They're in the city. Ray's smirk didn't fade. If anything, it deepened. Yep, that's exactly right. Then after a brief pause, his voice dipped slightly. Well, actually just outside the city. A little. John leaned forward, his gaze sharpening. How do you propose we do that? His words cut through the air, cold and precise. Valerie crossed her arms, her voice laced with sarcasm. Did you forget? The planet is being taken over. Tom let out a breath, his frustration barely contained. Yeah, I mean, we're just a bunch of kids. What do you expect us to do? Ray shrugged. For some reason, Aris suggested I take you with me. That landed with weight. Tom narrowed his eyes. Why would he do that? Ray leaned back slightly, feigning nonchalance. Not sure. Maybe he thinks you kids can handle yourselves better than the lugs around here. Valerie let out a dry, humorless laugh. I'd think some tough guys would do a better job than a few kids just out of high school. She shook her head. I mean, what if we get attacked? What if something goes wrong? Frank let out a snicker, shaking his head. Yeah, well, you haven't met everyone yet. Ray tilted his head. Most of these guys, they're here for the money. His voice was almost casual. If things get too hot, they'll cut and run. John's expression didn't change. What's saying we won't do the same? Ray exhaled. You might. A pause. But Aris knows the others will. He looked around at them, his voice dropping slightly. Besides, there are only 10 of us. The rest of them need to stay behind and prep the Eagle. John tapped his fingers against the worn wood of the table, thinking. So if we get these parts, you can repair the ship, and we can leave. Ray raised his eyebrows, forcing a smile. Yeah, that's the plan, all right. Tom's expression darkened. He looked over at John, his scowl deep. You're not seriously thinking about going along with this, are you? John didn't answer immediately, but she did. She spoke before he could. Her voice was quiet, but there was no hesitation. What choice do we have, Tom? Tom turned toward her. She met his gaze, her expression firm. We can't go back to the school. We can't live in the city. And we can't stay in the jungle. Not before they find us or the dinosaurs tear us apart. Her words settled over them. She exhaled. Our only real choice is to help these people fix their ship so we can get off this planet. Tom shook his head. It's just too dangerous. His voice was low, tense. Then finally his anger broke into something else, something closer to fear. We saw them, the chameleons, the chameleons or whatever you call them. His voice cracked slightly. They were killing people, Chi. He exhaled. Did you hear me? They were killing people. And for the first time since they'd escaped, nobody knew what to say. Ray's grin was sharp, satisfied. Sounds like a yes, then. Without waiting for further debate, he turned, heading for the door. Meet me by the shuttle in 10 minutes. A pause. We've got a lot of work to do. John exhaled, glancing at the others. I don't think we have much of a choice. I'm going. His voice carried no hesitation. Anyone who wants to stay behind and help load the ship, go ahead. Chi stepped forward. No hesitation, no doubt. I'm going with you, John. Valerie let out a breath. Well, I'm not staying here. Her arms crossed over her chest. I want off this planet. She nudged Scott with her elbow, breaking him from his thoughts. He blinked, then nodded. Oh, I'm in. Tom sighed loudly, rubbing a hand over his face. Then, resignation. Okay, fine. I'm in too. His voice dropped into a muttered grumble. Even though I think we're all going to be killed. John pushed back his chair, standing up. Good, let's go. Frank watched them, his expression unreadable. Then finally, a short nod. I wish you kids luck. Chi turned her head, giving him a small, grateful smile. Thanks, Mr. Frank. Outside, the shuttle loomed in the open space. A man, someone different than the one Ray had spoken with earlier, moved past them, carrying a few burlap sacks toward a nearby building. John approached him first. Where's Ray? The man barely glanced at them, jerking his head toward the building ahead. Inside. John looked up at the structure, a massive warehouse, the walls lined with rusted corrugated metal. A sliding hangar door loomed ahead, wide enough for a ship to fit through. As they moved toward the smaller side entrance, it swung open. Ray emerged, arms full, belts, holsters, blasters. He held them up as he walked toward them. Just grabbing some things for our expedition. Then without preamble, any of you know how to handle a gun? The response was instant. Every hand pointed at Chi. Tom didn't hesitate. She does. Ray's eyes flicked to her. Then, approval. Good. This one's for you. He handed her a belt. His voice was calm and measured. You sure you can handle this? Tom let out a short laugh. We've seen her in action. Trust me, she can handle a gun. Chi's fingers tightened around the belt. She lifted her chin. No arrogance, just certainty. My father trained me. Ray gave a slow nod. Good. He lifted the remaining belts. I have 2 more. Tom stepped forward, his hesitation gone. I'll take one. His voice was steady. Ray turned to Valerie, holding out the last belt and holster. Here, you take this one. Valerie hesitated, staring at the weapon as if it might bite her. Then slowly she reached for it. Okay, I think. Ray's gaze lingered on her for a moment, as if assessing whether she would hesitate when it mattered. Then he turned toward John and Scott, jabbing a finger in their direction. You two stick with me. You'll help with the part. A pause and then a shift in his tone. Lighter. Hey, want to see the ship? Sure, they all replied. Ray smirked. Come on, help me with this door. He strode toward the massive hangar entrance. The metal groaned as they heaved it open, rust and time resisting them. Then, the ship. A medium-sized space cruiser, its hull lined with the scars of years in service. Dense, burn marks, the kind of wear that spoke of stories long past. The cargo ramp was already open. Inside, two androids worked beneath the pulled-up floor panels. One wielded a soldering iron, its precise movements creating small plumes of smoke. The other was crouched beside it, carefully analyzing a tangle of wires, adjusting connections inside an exposed junction panel. Neither reacted to the arrival of outsiders. Their focus was absolute. Ray spread his arms, grinning like a game show host unveiling a prize. Here it is. A dramatic pause. The Golden Eagle. Scott stepped forward, tilting his head. Corsair class. He ran a critical eye over the ship. Not the fastest in the known universe, but not a bad ship. Ray smirked. She's faster than the manufacturer ever intended. There was a glint of pride in his eyes. Then, his voice lowered. But without the part we need, she won't go any faster than a kiddie ride at an amusement park. Scott stepped up the ramp, examining the modifications. How long will it take to repair the ship once we have the part? Ray leaned against the railing, arms crossed. Not long, hopefully. He jerked a thumb toward the androids, which were still working. These repair bots should have everything prepped by the time we get back. Then all they'll need is to slot the part in. Let's hope so, came a deep, powerful voice behind them. The words cut through the air. Everyone spun around. A massive figure filled the doorway, his silhouette casting a dark shadow over them. Combat armor, visor down, an oversized weapon slung across his torso, gripped in both hands as though it had been there for years. His presence shifted the room, made it smaller. Then the visor flipped up. A pair of steady, knowing eyes stared back. Are we ready to go? Ray smirked as he gestured toward the towering figure in combat armor. That's Max. His voice carried a note of confidence, of certainty. He's a good guy to have on your side when things get rough. Tom stared up at the armored soldier, barely suppressing his awe. Yeah, I can see why. Max didn't react. His gaze swept over them, cold, unreadable. Then, a question. Who are these kids? His voice was flat, edged with skepticism. Ray didn't flinch. They're coming with us to help retrieve the part. Max's visor tilted slightly, his expression still unreadable. Aris couldn't get anyone more experienced? His voice was almost disbelieving. What about the guys at the other camp he used to work with? Or the ones standing around here doing nothing? Ray's smirk faded. His voice hardened. Our old friends from the other camp made some enemies. A pause. Now they're all dead. The weight of that truth settled in the air. John swallowed. Ray continued. I saw it myself. He nodded toward the group. These kids survived the attack and made it back to the city. Max studied them again. He stepped aside, gesturing toward the door. Okay, tough kids, let's go. Tom exhaled, adjusting the strap of his belt. Max's voice came again, firm, final. We have a lot to do. Ray followed them out. If we wait too long, the Clemillians will have everything locked down. We won't be able to move. His voice was matter-of-fact. Right now, everything is in chaos. That's our best shot at slipping through. Tom frowned, his skepticism unshaken. That's funny. He muttered it under his breath. I would have thought the opposite. No one disagreed, but no one argued. Whether it made sense or not, they were doing this. The shuttle lifted off, engines humming against the quiet of the jungle. Ray's hands moved effortlessly over the controls, setting their course. They rose above the trees, and then they turned toward the city.
Thanks for listening to another chapter of Into the 6th Millennium, The Invasion of Zephro. If you enjoyed it, be sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss future audiobooks. You'll find links below to get the book, explore more titles from the series, and grab official merch. We've also included some affiliate links to the tools we use to bring this project to life.